Okay.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions on that subject? That's all I really wanted to touch on today. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, I think it's fantastic that you've hired someone who is hearing impaired. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions? No? Anyone? Sarah? Want to touch on it?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Leonard. I'm the Resident Services Director. I work closely with Mary Jo Murray, our wellness nurse, Angel Murphy, another wellness nurse who is now, if you're not aware, who is here for 4 10-hour shifts, Thursday through Sunday. She's available to all of you if you need any kind of nursing support. And I also work with Grace Jurin, our fitness coordinator. So I just have one quick announcement from Gretchen, all about St. Patrick's Day. For St. Patty's Day, a pot of gold scavenger hunt. Time to don the green, put on your walking shoes and thinking cap for this fun sleuthing exercise to search for the elusive pot of gold. You can pick up a contest form at the concierge anytime on Thursday, St. Patty's Day, and follow the Limerick clues to find the hidden items, which will all be located in the common areas on the main floor and in some offices. You won't be gathering any of the items, only finding them and noting what items you spied and their location on your contestant form. Once you have completed the hunt, return your form to the concierge desk. The contest ends at 4. All contestants will be entered in a drawing for 3 door prizes. So from Gretchen, please join us and enjoy this on St. Patty's Day. Does anyone have anything for me? Okay, enjoy the beautiful day. Yes, Annette. Yes, I'll repeat the times. So it's throughout the day tomorrow on St. Patty's Day. No specific times. Due by 4 o'clock. Yep. Jason? No? Sure. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, guys. How are you? Okay. This is my second one. The first one I was thrown into. Oh, Amy McIntyre, Director of Dining. How is everybody today? Good. And I know most of your faces. I'm still not great with names, but everybody has been so patient with me. So we'll start with the good things. St. Patrick's Day menu tomorrow. We have a lot of great specials. Obviously corned beef and cabbage, but I think we're doing a Guinness whiskey chicken, and we're doing an Irish stew and coal cannon. Anyone know what that is? I love it. It's like mashed potatoes and cabbage mixed together. It's one of my favorites. That's one of our side dishes. Yeah, you got to be Irish. And we have happy hour tomorrow. It's not complimentary, but I am bringing in some Guinness and Killian's. We'll have that at I said, I'll definitely told a couple of people we're going to have some green beer in IL. Why not? Because why not? So definitely come and see us tomorrow. We also, I got some Irish soda bread I brought from the local bakery. So we're excited about that. Okay. I do have a dining room manager starting. I do. I was afraid to say that, but I'm feeling really good about this, right, Bridget? Yeah, we're good. The 28th. Okay. We're going to be patient. I want her to learn. It's a woman, Tanya. I'll definitely introduce her the next time to everyone. You know, I will. I want her to train on everything. So the pub, the host stand, the dining room, everything, so that she can understand fully what we do here. So we're going to be really patient with her. I went to my first IL dining committee meeting. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but I definitely sat at a meeting. And I also went to AL and Skilled. I met a lot of people. I got a lot of positive feedback. And I got a lot of, things that we could improve on. Everybody's been amazing coming to me and telling me their feelings, their concerns, giving me ideas pre-COVID. I wasn't here pre-COVID, and a lot of you were. So it's wonderful when you let me remind me or tell me for the first time how things used to be, because the goal is to get us back there slowly. We're working on a dining services refresher memo. It's going to come out. Michelle's been helping me with this. It's going to come out probably tomorrow, next day. And it's just giving you all of the process of dining services, reminders on how many reservations we're doing, what our seatings are. Brunch, we've opened up a third seating now. You guys know you can come at 11:30 now for brunch. And we used to only take 8 tables a serving on brunch. Now we're doing 10. We literally are taking 14 new tables just on Sunday alone. We started that on March 6th, and the chefs say it doesn't feel any different. Okay. I will tell you that at night, we take 10 reservations per time slot, and we're not always filled. So we have to start, talking up, socializing. We do have reservations open. And I know when I first got here, we may not have, and that may have discouraged some people from making them or coming to the dining room. So please, everybody needs to know that we do have availability at all time slots. So give us a call, but that will go out to everyone, a dining service refresher. It'll explain room service again, as if like we've never talked about it before, because sometimes we need that. There's some people need some clarification on how the process of dining services works. All right, what else do I have? Oh, recruiting. We're working really hard. You're going to see some new faces in the wait staff. I'm bringing in, I think I say 2.5, but 2 full, 1 part. Okay, they're coming in. I told you about my dining room manager. I have a new dietary aide that just started. So I'm bringing in lots of staff. People are definitely wanting to work, which is amazing because you all know, I'm sure you've been hearing for the last couple of years. That's all America has ever talked about, was how we can't get staff. But they have been applying and it is happening. Okay. That being said, we get a lot of, the thing about dining services and especially wait staff is that we hire, it's usually their first job, which I think is amazing because you got to start somewhere. And I have a 24 and 23-year-old. And I remember when they first went into the workforce, they could never get a job anywhere because if you don't have experience, you can't get a job. But if you don't have a job, how do you get experience? So what's amazing about Woodland Pond, especially with dining services, is that especially for the wait staff, majority of them, this is their first job. And I love it because it gives them the opportunity. And if they listen and train and absorb what we, offer them, they can take that anywhere. Most of them can go to college and wait tables and take care of, anything. I'm sure a lot of people have waited tables while they were in college as, pursuing their careers. So we do that a lot. But the reason I bring this up to you is be patient because some of the new people that are coming on, literally first job. But with a dining room manager, I can come and sit down and eat with you in comparison to waiting tables. Okay. Any questions for me? Yes. How are you doing tomorrow?
Hi, Amy. Yes, things are much better, getting better all the time.
Slowly.
My question is, can you spell out in specifics some of the tasks of the dining room manager? I have no sense of what they do.
Of course.
Now, I think Roz was.
Yes, that's what I was told.
The dining, I still don't know.
Okay, so the idea of the dining room manager. So our goal is, I forgot to mention this. I'm going to, it's a twofold. So I will mention that we've been talking about this constantly about when the bistro is going to be opening for lunch. Literally before I came to this Q&A, we were having another conversation about it because every day I put it on I have a to-do list. It's on my list because if you don't put it on the list, it falls off. So every day I put it as a refresher. And so lunch bistro, we should be starting that. I'm thinking middle of April. Because the dining room manager starts on the 28th of this month, we have to give that person a couple of weeks before we throw lunch on them. So the idea of the dining room manager managing the dining room is they're going to help all the training for all the wait staff. So they would work with the wait staff to train them. Okay. When they would be the ones who would, when the wait staff came in for the day, assign task, make sure tasks are being completed for the wait staff. When our wait staff comes in at 11:30, they also do all of room service. So they put all your meals together for anything that's all of our to-goes, our takeouts. So we have a few of your wait staff that come in at 11:30 who primarily until the dining room open, take care of the takeouts, to-goes. There's a lot that goes into getting ready for dinner. And so the idea is that the dining room manager would be managing the setup and getting ready for IL dinner. During dinner, the manager should be walking the floor to ensure that everyone is okay, which you all see me out there. I try to do it as much as I can. Some of you tell me to go home. Michelle says I have to have work-life balance. But the idea of a dining room manager is they're supposed to come up to your tables, check on you, and make sure that you're having an optimal meal. And then if you're having issues, then they can bring it back to the chef, talk to them. They're also there to support the wait staff, because if our wait staff gets behind or is having trouble, or if there's a resident that is upset, the wait staff needs a go-to person for support. And sometimes they don't have that. That's why I try to stay. I usually am here till after 6 most nights, unless I have Will here helping me out, so that they have a support staff. So that's the idea of the dining room manager, primarily to make sure that, dinner is set up and executed in the dining room proficiently. And then when lunch starts, they'll also oversee that. I also want them to be able to manage the pub, meaning just oversee it during the day, making sure it's being done correctly, and also be a support system to Ruth, so that Ruth has somebody that she can go to during the day. Because right now it's all me. So there's a lot of things that, is expected of me, and I'm managing the dining room. Okay. Anyone else? Questions? Or positive feedback? Yes. Okay, good. That's what I said when I went to go see AL and Skill. I told them that whatever you do, you can tell me whatever you want, but you got to start off with something positive. I'm ready tomorrow. Oh, well, I love that you're telling me that. No, not tiny, huge. So buffet night used to be my early day, because it was like less wait staff, not as much stress. It's a different kind of service. So I have Will came in today after 11, because I was here at 8:30. So I have Will here till after, he got in after 11 today. So he's going to stay throughout buffet night. I want to see it all. I was also told that, that we always hear this pre-COVID thing. So some of the gentlemen that work in the kitchen currently were here before COVID, and they know the difference. And some of you know the difference. So we are definitely revisiting the buffet. What it is that right down the middle, 50-50, some people love it or they don't. It's kind of just how we all are about buffets. Either you are like a buffet loving family, or you never go to one. And that's IL. Right down the middle, where there's people who really love the buffet. So if I get rid of it, which trust me, I've been frustrated and said, I'm just going to get rid of it. I've also been told that that can't happen because there's so many people who want it. So that's that down the middle. I mean, how many people to go to the China buffet and love it? And that place is packed every night. The one in Kingston, it's like so busy. And there's a lot of people who would never go to that China buffet. Just give you an example. But, it's one night a week. But it needs to be executed correctly. And I think that's the thing tomorrow, is I'm being told, we talked about having a second soup, which being like a vegetarian option, because sometimes that doesn't happen. The food, I'm being told that the vegetables are cold. Like I get it every day, I hear it all the time. Every day. I also feel like when you're getting your food off the line, by the time you get to your table, you sit down, so we're going to look at the process. That's my next. Thank you. I'm so happy that you brought that up, because that's one of the concerns I get. I come in, I cringe when I open my emails on Thursday mornings. I cannot lie. So it's definitely a focus of mine. So we'll talk next Q&A. You be here and we'll talk about the positive feedback about the buffet. Okay. Anything else? All right. It was a pleasure. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you very much. So you've heard me say this. I'm Michelle Grimolia, the CEO, for those that don't know. You've heard me say this probably every time we've had this meeting for the last 4 or 5 months. There are not enough people in this room. More people are going to a lot of other things, and a lot of people are missing out on the opportunity to ask questions. So if you're watching online or watch this on YouTube, please try to make time to come to this meeting. Very important. We have it because we want people to be here and have a chance to ask questions and so forth. It's one of the many ways that we can get feedback. We're all here for you. We give the time, and we'd like you to be here and come and be vocal about, concerns, conditions, et cetera. So I have a couple of things I just wanted to talk about. There's been a couple of things that have come up in the last few weeks that have been a little, gotten a little bit more airtime than some other things have, and not COVID related. So first and foremost, you're going to, as Amy just said, you're going to get an update memo on dining services, just so that everybody has a refresher as to where we're at. You're also going to get a memo on what the protocol is when we have a flood. Okay, they happen here. And despite rumor to the contrary, very, very, very rarely do they happen because a resident had an accident. So I want to take time to dispel that right now. We have had 3 in the last 6 weeks, 3 major in the last 6 weeks. Well, what we would consider higher level. I mean, there's always water places where it shouldn't be, but sometimes it's just a leaky refrigerator thing or whatever. But we've had 3 in the last 6 weeks. Only 1 was a resident accident in terms of behavior. 1 was a resident accident in terms of a fall that then resulted in a broken piece of equipment that then leaked water. Anyone that could happen to. That is not preventable. The person typically doesn't fall. This was a unique instance, something we've never seen. 1, was something that might have been preventable. And then the third was we are renovating kitchens as we redo apartments now. We're renovating a kitchen. The kitchen contractor came in, put the cabinets in. At some point in the process, one of the PEX tubes that is, the flexible tubing that's behind the sink got somehow dislodged for a small leak. These kinds of things happen when for those of you that have lived in residential housing like this, been in a dorm room, been in a hotel, ever managed it, water is our nemesis. And leaks happen all the time. We have had many sprinkler pipe bursts. Most of them were related to frozen conditions, and 99% of those, well, at least all the ones we are aware of, have been attended to with copious amounts of new insulation. We haven't had any of those frozen pipe bursts in at least 5 or 6 years, frozen pipe bursts. A sprinkler head. We had a sprinkler head burst within the last 4 years? Oh, in the assisted living dining room, right. So within the last several years, we haven't had any frozen sprinklers, and we've had very, very cold weather. So we've come up with the ways to keep those pipes warm. We've had building related sprinkler pipes where settling happens in the building, and the building settles on a sprinkler pipe and it goes. All of these things are things that we attend to as quickly as we possibly can. We have an excellent response. There are things that are unpreventable related to some of those things. So we have a fully charged sprinkler system. So if for any reason we have a sprinkler pipe burst, the entire fully charged system has to discharge. So from the minute we find it, it's 45 minutes to discharge the water. And the water has been sitting in there since the last sprinkler pipe burst. So it's grimy and it's gross. The last time we had this happen was in the central wing. You remember a couple of years ago, we ended up losing almost totally losing 8 apartments. Everyone had to be relocated. Again, that is something that happened probably from either a construction issue or settling of the building. Nothing that a resident did. It wasn't related to a fire or smoke condition. The pipe separated. Anytime this happens, we assess the risk. We always work with our insurance companies. None of these over the years have cost Woodland Pond substantially because we have excellent insurance policies. We have an excellent relationship with the restoration company ServPro. But there are some things that are different now than, and we just had the 5-year internal sprinkler pipe inspection. We have quarterly sprinkler inspections, annual sprinkler inspections, and every 5 years we are required to, and we just had ours completed, of the wide scale full sprinkler inspection. They look inside pipes and they do the whole thing. We contract with a third party to do that. Thank you for reminding me. But there are some things that have changed since even when we had the central wing flood. When that happened, we had vacant apartments. And in the rare instance that someone is displaced, which has been very, very rare, we have been able to put them up in another apartment, move their stuff and put them up while their homes are renovated or repaired. But now we are full. So in my memo, which is going to explain the process of what's going to happen if we have a flood that requires restoration, it's going to explain to you the insurance claim process and what your responsibility is in that and what our responsibility is in that. It's going to explain the communication process and the role that each of us is going to have in that process. We sat down on Monday and went through quite the exercise on it. But it's also going to ask you to really think about, if I was displaced, where am I going? Because most of you want to stay here, and we don't have vacant apartments to put anybody in. So you might want to be thinking about, again, if I was displaced for any reason, would I be calling a family member? Would I be calling a friend? Or would I need some kind of hotel accommodations? Okay, so that's going to be in the memo, but it's very good for us to have a plan, because there could be any reason that you might get displaced. It could be your ventilation system needs repair and it's freezing cold, but the parts are on a ship coming from China. It could be a water situation. It could be something else that we haven't discussed, but it's good for all of us to know who would we call and where would we go. And again, it's been our experience that most people want to stay at or close to campus because you have a life here and activities that you want to participate in. So please look for that memo. Okay. And does anybody have any questions about flood related stuff? Go ahead, Yakov. Oh, hold on.
Did you ever have any situation like that in the cottages, or that's much rarer?
In the cottages, there are no sprinklers.
Yeah, but I mean, other things.
We've never had anybody displaced from a cottage. Typical things that happen in any residential setting, your hot water heater might leak or those kinds of things. The most important thing of all of this, the number one way that we can prevent wide scale damage here, is that everybody is paying attention to your environment, because we can't be in your apartment and see a brown ceiling that wasn't there yesterday. And so many times, Tom will attest to this, so many times the flooded situation is happening in the walls because it's tubing that's in the walls. You aren't necessarily going to see like a puddle just exists next to your sink. Most likely the person below you is going to report that their ceiling is discolored. So please, it will never be a bother. If you ever see water or staining where it shouldn't be, you're not crazy. It's there. And that is our number one way to know where it is and get there. And the faster we get there, the less likely it is that it's going to turn into a situation that requires displacement. Rob, Deborah has a question.
If we get displaced and we have to go and live in a hotel for a month, is the homeowner's insurance paying for it, or is Woodland Pond's insurance paying for it?
It depends on the situation. We actually haven't encountered this yet. We haven't had to put anyone. Actually, I think in the central wing, we had to put somebody up for a couple of days. It's very short term, but in that case, that was a Woodland Pond construction or building issue. It was our policy that covered it. We put all of the costs to our policy. All of you are required to carry tenant's insurance. And if it's your action that results in the damage or the flood or whomever's it is, it would go against that policy. So all of this will be in that memo. Okay. Other questions on floods? Okay. The next issue has been parking. So handicap parking here has always been and will always be an issue because we have a lot of folks that can benefit from that and that have the stickers or the placards that come from your rear view mirrors. So some people would like every spot at Woodland Pond to be handicap parking. It's not possible and it's not practical because it wouldn't, the parking spots are where they are. So even if we put handicap signs on all of the spots, you'd still have the same distance to walk. But what we have tried to do over the years is make sure that we have the right parking in the right places. Okay. So many years ago, some of you will remember we had a parking committee by the residents. This might have preceded your time here. So this might have been right before Tom came. But we had a number of residents that were interested in handicap parking. They worked together with the John Smith, who was Tom's predecessor, and came up with a Woodland Pond parking plan. That plan has been updated periodically over the years, and what you see now is a result of that parking plan. Periodically, it is reviewed by I think the building inspector comes and opines on it sometimes to make sure that we have adequate handicap parking. And the latest review indicated that, yes, that's correct. But we do have folks that don't necessarily follow specific signs that are there where they are specified. So we have, parking signs with instructions on them, whether it be for visitor parking or 3-hour parking or whatever the case may be. We really need residents to be paying a little bit more attention to that and respecting that. So if you know that you're going to be, well, first of all, if you know that you're not a visitor, you shouldn't be parking in visitor parking. If you know that you're going to be in the handicap parking spot for more than 3 hours, please don't park there, because chances are somebody that needs it for the shorter period of time will need it. And this applies to a couple of different concepts, and I'm not going to go through them all today, but you all heard all of us say over the years, nobody at Woodland Pond wants to be the police. We don't want to make this a community that all we are doing is enforcing rules. Everyone that's here is independent, intelligent, and has a contract and a handbook that knows what the policies are. We have an expectation that there is some level of attention to that, and that you're reading signs and saying, okay, I want to, pay attention to these signs. So we don't like to be heavy-handed in policy enforcement because, and we've talked about this with the dog policy and other things, there are a lot of policies in the handbook, a lot of them, and a lot of them are not being followed a lot of the time. So we have to pick our battles and say, which one is a safety issue? Which one has a financial impact? The safety issue has to get our attention first. Convenience or financial could be second. Convenience and just enforcing to enforce. That's not how any of us want to spend our time. And that's not the kind of community that anybody here wants to be in, right? So we don't have an enforcement team. So oftentimes somebody will look at all of us and say, well, who's responsible for enforcing X? It's all of us because we're management and ultimately me. But no one here has a little ticket book and is going out and saying, you didn't park in the right spot, so now you're in trouble. What we normally do is ask you, if you see something that's happening that's not following one of the agreed to policies that we've put in place, to let one of us know, and we will try to have conversations with people one-on-one, okay? And we do that. General communication of reminders is helpful, but specific reminders is more important. But at the end of the day, there is a point at which many residents here just are going to do what they want to do. And then the question becomes, okay, so we know that this person is always taking their dog off leash and they're in the mailroom, or they're just in the mailroom with their dog. Are we going to say to that person, you can't be a resident of Woodland Pond anymore because you take your dog on a leash in the mailroom? I would hope not. So I think, again, we have to pick our battles. What's a safety issue? What's a convenience issue? What's a financial issue? And then I think we need to allocate our enforcement accordingly. Jason has graciously offered to be responsible for more aggressively enforcing parking with the handicap parking. And I appreciate that, Jason, but we're not going to become extremely heavy-handed with it. We're going to remind people to be mindful of your own behavior, because you may not realize that you're keeping there in that parking lot means someone else can't. Just reminding people to be a good neighbor. And that's, I just wanted to mention that and then offer to answer any questions or take any comments on that. Dave?
Excuse the mask, sinus thing. What is the difference, if any, between a parking? 4 hours.
That's
To
a great
me-
question.
To me, 24 hours means I can stay there 24 hours and 24 hours and 24. Not that I would do it. That's what the sign to me. There's no limit.
Do you have a bug in my office? You must. When you were at the head of the residence council, you must have bugged my office. So Dave asked the very astute question that I literally just asked myself this morning, literally. Why do we have this 24-hour parking sign? And could one not to interpret it as I can stay here 24 hours a day as long as I want to? So my first order of business when I got to work today to Tom was please take down the 24-hour parking sign and just make it a regular sign. So that is in the works. Now, we may find that we need to replace some of those with 3-hour parking. We may need more 3-hour, but the 24 was too ambiguous. And it's weird that two of us both had the same thought on the same day, but it's good. So yes, we literally just talked about it this morning, and it never occurred to me until today when I came in and said, wow, that could be very, you could interpret that how you want to. So we will have 3-hour handicap and general handicapped. And then of course, all the visitor parking. And then again, if we have to assess if we need additional 3-hour parking, we certainly will. Other questions on parking? Okay. Tomorrow is the day that I go to the residence council meeting. The agenda is in the mailroom. When I have that meeting, Michelle and I, or Dave and I, or Maddie and I, whomever is the, Suzanne, whomever is the, oh, it's like a whole row of, wow, it's royalty. And in order, right? We're missing Larry and Maddie. But anyway, this works out really well because then this way we can have time and we can talk about what our concerns and so forth. So normally the person is bringing me things I'm not aware of, but today, one of the things that I added to the list in my conversation with Michelle Cacavano was the conversation that happened at the Women's History panel on Monday night or Tuesday night. So we are aware of it. I will be so there was an extensive conversation at the Women's History panel after the meeting about a possible need for additional social and psychosocial services here in independent living. I was a little bit disappointed in the fact that it happened in the way that it did because no one from management was there to answer questions that were raised. And after watching it extensively and a couple of times, I can speak for myself and say that I was disappointed in some of the information that was shared because it was inaccurate. And there were a lot of people there from what I could tell. And I think it was live streamed potentially. Sarah, I don't know if you had the same reaction, but about some of the information not being 100% historically correct and so forth. But the bottom line is that like everything at Woodland Pond, we consider anything to be on the table if it's a priority for the residents. We will always consider it. And I want that to be the message that's on the record. And I would like to invite those that have concerns about anything to always take it through the proper channels, which this was not. The proper channels are the residence council. If you don't feel like you can come to me, we have the ear sessions. We have the residence council. This issue has never been escalated on any resident council concerns list that I can recall. It has been discussed in years past about a service that we could benefit from, but certainly never escalated. The residence council has a member that talks directly to the board. It's not been raised there. So we will be responsive to it, but having the conversation happen in a little bit more of a constructive way so that we can understand what's really being sought would be appreciated. And that's typically the spirit that we've had here at Woodland Pond. So in this specific case, what Sarah and I have decided is the next best step, taking from whatever was discussed the other night and really assessing it. And we have history for doing this at Woodland Pond. Anytime we consider a programmatic change, we survey the residents. And that is what we intend to do here. We will survey you as to your interest level in different services, your desire about how you would receive those services, because there are a vast number of ways that social support can be provided, your desire or willingness to pay for such services. It will cover all of the things that we need in order to plan for such a thing. And then we will come back to the table and figure out what's the next step here. We've done this successfully every time we've had a programmatic change. And for those that have asked, why a sustainability coordinator and not a social worker? The way the social worker experience was described from what I could glean on the other night, that seems to want to be a service that is available to residents sort of like Mary Jo, in a way, which will not pay for itself. The sustainability coordinator, their number one role is to write grants, to bring in funding for things that we need to do, and to cut down costs. Those are their two primary goals. The sustainability coordinator not only should have any impact on any resident in terms of cost, but rather a reduction of cost. That's the whole purpose. I mean, of course, the greening of the community is important, but helping us to become more cost efficient in terms of the things that we're doing, that is a huge part. So this position should pay for itself. And maybe the social worker could too. But what we don't want to ever do is create something in this community that's going to be utilized by a small group, but have a financial impact on everyone. We've never done that. So we will survey you, and I hope that we get more responses than we did from the dining survey, because although we got 130 or so, we have 260 residents in independent living, and everyone has said the food. So I was expecting we'd get 200, at least 200 of those surveys back, because we were still, eating in our apartments at that time. I only got 130. This seemed to be a very big issue that wanted a lot of attention the other night. So I'm hoping that everyone is responsive to this survey, because I agree, everyone can use additional support. It's just not one size fits all. So we need to figure out what is the size that fits best for independent living. Okay. So this will be discussed more at the Residents' Council tomorrow, I'm sure, but I wanted to let you all know where we were on it and offer to answer questions or hear comments at this point from anyone. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for raising it, Michelle. I just wanted to mention that no one planned that to come up. It just kind of organically happened. So I just wanted that to be on the record. And everyone had agreed at the end of that meeting that the place it should go is the resident council.
And I appreciate that. For those that didn't watch all the way to the end, that message wouldn't have been delivered. So I really felt like it's important to say, we as a community have committed to that. If you don't feel comfortable coming to us, or if you feel like we're not attending to something, that is what the Residents' Council is for. They're here as your advocate, 100%. I only go to one meeting per month. I don't go to the EAR sessions. The Residents' Council is there to hold us to task. And this is why they also report directly to the board and can say anything. And I will make this clear tomorrow. You're currently the Residents' Council rep. At any time, if there's something that you need to discuss with the board and I shouldn't be there, that mechanism is available to you. So if the Residents' Council asks you to discuss something with the board and it's not appropriate in your opinion for me to be there, say, Michelle's really digging her heels in on this, but I don't want to say it in front of Michelle. You can ask them to meet with them separately, and I will explain that process. We've never had it and we don't really talk about it much, but that is available to you. Okay. So we have the mechanisms and we do absolutely want to be responsive. And, I understand it was organic, and I understand people are very emotional about this. It's an emotional topic. Mental health services are becoming more and more widely discussed, which is great. But like the framework that exists out in the real world, the demand is not being kept up with right now because the system is not there. So let's say you're out in the public and you want to go have therapy services right now. You're going to have a hard time finding a practitioner that can take you in person. Very hard time finding someone that accepts insurance. You might find someone on Zoom and you may or may not like them. So everyone's talking about, we need to talk about our feelings. We need to accept this. We need to treat it like medical care. And I agree with that, but we have to make sure that the system that we have is appropriate for our setting and doesn't get held hostage by a small group of people. right? Because we need to be able to make sure that whatever we put in here is accessible to the bulk of the residents. Otherwise, we really can't justify bringing it in. That's what interest groups are for. So more comments on that? Any questions? Okay, so that's all I'm going to cover for today, unless somebody has questions on other topics. Yes, Ronnie Sue. Yeah, just keep the mic.
Jason, your concierge people are fantastic. I don't know how they do all that they do. However, could you please remind them, we had a few, excuse me, incidents of calling in work orders and it just kind of got lost. So maybe you could just remind them to make sure that when we call in for a work order, it gets put in. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And would you ask them to wear their name tags?
Yeah, we're actually looking at potentially getting different name tags for certain positions that are easier to read and not as like security like. Bridget and I are talking about it, and concierge staff are some of those, and also wait staff and some others. But yes, the name badges are very important for identification reasons. Other questions for any of us? Comments? Right. So where Amy's saying it's also helpful for you, for us, if you wear your name tags in the dining room, because this helps staff know who you are and also get the charges onto the right account, because everybody gets frustrated when that doesn't happen. Go ahead, Michelle.
It's going to sound dopey, but
Nothing is dopey.
are you allowed to have 2 name tags?
Yeah, you can have 2 name tags. It's a $20 fee, right?
Get a 3 for $3.
You could have 2, but we typically only allow 1 to be activated at a
Right.
time.
I like having one for my coat because I'm going in and out with the dog.
Right.
So I don't wear it to the dining room. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Just your name.
That's what I'd want for the dining room.
Okay, so we'll talk about that because we have to buy the card. So we probably just charge you whatever the cost of the cards
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
It's
just safer because I've gotten locked out because I forgot to wear my badge.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen.
No.
All
I
right,
don't either.
Yakov and then Alice.
Yeah, just a technical note. I mean, sometime in the past, I mean, when we came in about 2 years ago, we had the name that was on this side. Somebody made a label to put it on the other side because a lot of people, this has a 50% chance
Yeah.
of being readable.
Right.
And, so if people don't need to have to remember that, I mean, it would be useful to have it
Right.
on
I
both
don't think
sides.
we can't print them on the back, right?
No.
No, I know,
With the
but
label.
we can't print them on the back though. All right, so what Yakov was saying is that people have been manually putting a label on the back so that when your badge flips, you can see it on both sides. I just asked Bridget to look into to see if we can print them on the back. But that's for all of you that have existing badges, we wouldn't reissue. So we can print you a label. Yeah. So Jason, if the concierge needs additional label making supplies, I have some in my office where we can order some. So if you would like your name on the back of your badge, your first name, go ahead down to concierge. Don't all flood there at once right now because they wouldn't know you were coming. And then they will put your name on the back of your badge. Alice?
A couple of small things. One is the print is pretty small. So I printed out on my computer and both sides in larger print and then just taped it on. It looks kind of crummy, but at least you can read the name without looking at the belly button,
Right.
So, and the other thing is that one-sided badges for the staff are usually backwards. So you don't see the name anyway. So I don't know how you can solve that, but those are both pretty key.
Right. And I agree with you. The badges are challenging when it comes for identification. So we will work on it. Ray, they're not useless. My goodness. Fake news, fake news.
Exactly what Alice did, which was printed in much larger print.
Okay, so we control the template. So we can totally work on that because we control the template. So let's make that our 2022 strategic goal. Okay, done. Perfect. Who's next? Who has another idea? Keep them coming. All right, and to all of you that missed out on the fun, we will see you next month. Happy St. Patrick's Day.